How's it going? Welcome to the show. Today, we're learning about the one thing you have to get right before any of your marketing or sales or any of your business efforts can be successful. I'm so excited to jump into this episode with you. We dig into a whole lot in this episode, and AJ is just phenomenal at really getting to the core of what drives people, and that's what he does for his clients. He gets to the core of what is holding them back, and then all of their strengths in order for them to be able to push forward and really be successful in their business. He gives us so much value in this, so many tactical things that we can go do and apply and make this happen in our own lives. So without further ado, let's jump in with Anthony John Amyx. How's it going, everybody? We are here with Anthony John Amyx. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, dude. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, man.
I get to hang out with you, the moose on the dashboard. I mean, it's going to be a great show.
We'll have to get a shot of that.
Yes. Did you know, by the way, this guy loves moose? Just letting you know. So if you ever want to send this guy a gift, send him a moose. Just letting you know.
A moose coffee mug. That's the ultimate.
That would be great.
Yes. I can be bribed. I can be very easily. How's it going, man?
It's awesome.
I'm so glad to have you on the show. And for those of you who know about Startup Dallas and the past show and all that good stuff, AJ, as I like to call him, as his friends like to call him.
That's right.
He was on the show there, and really we dug into so much of
did.
Past and
talked a lot about Twitter that day.
Yeah, we did. A lot of Twitter. That's definitely one of your superpowers. For
sure.
And so we'll link up. Bing, bing, bing. We'll link up to that up in the show notes and all that good stuff to a past episode. But I wanted to just get into some of your awesomeness that you're out there helping people with in the world right now. What would you consider your main superpower right now?
Growth. So I was talking to our homies Jason Osborne because we went through a whole new rebranding thing.
Soon to be on the show.
Oh, perfect.
Whether he likes it or not.
I love that guy. We're going to go watch a soccer game on Wednesday.
Nice.
So it was growth, right? Business growth, personal growth, because a lot of what I do is try to figure out how do we help a business double the revenue and also take back their time. So we came up with this term, growth strategist, because I love strategy and I've learned I'm pretty good at it. And so coming up from the holistic view of what is the strategy to grow. And for lots of people, it is a business strategy, but it's also a personal development, a personal growth strategy, because the reality is we can execute on the tactics every single day of the week. Sure. But if we have some underlying emotional stuff that's going down, like we're not going to get the results. Right. And we could go into this whole idea of the age of information versus the age of intuition. And people think, well, I just need to create a bunch of content, then I'm going to be able to grow my business.
Well, that's all you see out there.
True.
Yeah.
But the reality is, let's say you and I were talking about video marketing. If I have more confidence and certainty coming through me in the delivery of that content, the marketplace is going to listen to me more over you. Even though the content is completely the exact same strategy, they can feel the confidence and certainty that's coming through me into the content, so therefore they're going to resonate it. Or you may have shitty clients, right? Yeah. Meaning people who aren't going to pay, maybe their budget is lower, right?
Sure.
That's who's attracting with it. Not saying that you do, right? Just in this example.
Not this guy.
Exactly. This guy's the best video guy in Dallas. I always call this guy when I have video stuff.
Is cocky and arrogant the same as confidence?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
I got to work on that.
Absolutely not. Because at the end, look at my favorite fighter, Conor McGregor. Is he cocky and arrogant? Maybe a little bit, but I think it's just he's completely certain at his craft.
Oh, yeah.
But outside of his showmanship, I would assume he's a very humble guy from all the behind-the-scenes stuff that I've seen of him. He, hangs out with people, shakes their hands,
Well, and that's the thing, and I'm certainly kidding around and stuff, but it really is, people do mistake those two things. Yes. Because you see the people acting cocky and arrogant, and you just see how terrified they are. If you take 3 seconds and look behind the eyes, they're just terrified.
Yep.
Instead of that confident core anchor.
Absolutely.
So I took you off track though, but
you did.
Operating from that core, two people saying the same words,
yes,
attracting very different clientele.
Big time. big time. I mean, I had my client Liverpool. He was a marketing guy, consultant, really good. And we took him from doing well, $5,000-6,000 a month, to very consistently $10,000-15,000 a month. And it was pure personal power, personal growth.
Really?
Still executed upon the same tactics. You know, we got a little bit more clear on his messaging, dialed in who was perfect for him. But outside of that, it was who was he when he's creating and executing upon the strategy that shifted everything.
That's phenomenal. That's really good. I want to get into even more the nitty gritty of that, and how, as much as you want to, and how.
Sure.
I want to go back just a little bit though, because you weren't always this way, and coming from. I mean, you didn't know this. You didn't have this strength, and you weren't always. It's
true.
Coming from the same place. So, what was life like for AJ then?
Prior to having confidence and certainty?
To really discovering this truth that you're now sharing and helping people with.
So prior to that, I was like, checklist. Tell me exactly what to do, and I'll do it. And I guess I should talk directly to the camera. I'm looking at you because we're having a conversation, but you guys are watching it, so let me just spend some time with you on this conversation. So prior to this idea of what I'm doing on growth strategy, and this was really prior to 2015. I mean, this is very recent for me, this conversation, is I realized my entire life, everything I had accomplished, which you can go back to the Startup Dallas episode and check out. But in a nutshell, you know, I toured as a musician for 10 years. We had a 38-foot tour bus. We had radio play. You know, we were a successful independent band that toured with all of the bands I loved growing up with. So did that. And then after I decided to burn that to the ground, then I rebirthed myself doing social media marketing for companies, had 22 clients on a reoccurring basis, grew that business from nothing to about $6,000 a month in reoccurring revenue. It was 23, 24, however old I was at the time. And then I got burnt out because I didn't know how to scale and hire people and do systems. I knew nothing about business. I just knew how to market and sell and then deliver upon the promise. That's about all I knew. Then I got burnt out, burned that to the ground. And then I hired a mentor, Garrett J. White, who's the founder of Wake Up Warrior. I worked directly with Garrett in 2012. He's like, dude, you should teach. And I'm like, that's a great idea. So then I started packaging up everything that I was doing for brick and mortars and started teaching brick and mortars and business owners how to use social media marketing to generate leads and close sales. And then I started seeing, like, why aren't people being able to follow through on this? And also me, I'm getting results sometimes and not sometimes, and I'm going to bed feeling full of guilt and shame because these people are paying me and they're not. Sometimes they're getting results and sometimes they're not, even though I'm telling them exactly what to do and it's what I did. Why is it not working, right? So prior to that place, what I learned is that every business I had created, I was doing because I wanted my father's approval. That was my biggest driver at the time, right?
How did you discover that?
So how I discovered that one is I was working on a real estate deal. I bought a house from my dad, and there's a bunch of personal stuff that was going on. We could totally go into, but we don't have a whole lot of time today. But between my niece, my brother, and how the baby's mamas of the niece got into methamphetamine, and then there was a custody case, and the courts ended up awarding the child's custody to my mom. Totally gonna just vomit like my history here. And growing up, my mom cut herself and all of this, which anchored in like beliefs to my father, how my mom wasn't a great mother, even though she was a great mother, and she had like totally done massive amounts of personal growth work to heal through that, and is a completely amazing human being today, and somebody I look up to because she faces her fear and grows past all of the stuff, regardless of what her past. She's not letting her past dictate who she is today. She takes ownership of it and grows from that. My father stayed stuck because he doesn't want to deal with guilt and shame. At least that's my judgment of what I'm seeing, right? Doesn't mean it is or it isn't. It's just my interpretation of the reality that's of the world that's going on now,
sure,
right? So when all of this went down, the world gave me opportunities to either, one, I could victimize myself and say, well, why is dad not approving me when we've done all of these things? You know, I'm helping my mom with the child. Sarah and I said, hey, we'll take care of the kid on the weekends, etc. We totally did, and it was fine. But he was at this place of like, oh, your mom's not responsible. I can't believe you kids did this. You schemed to get me. Da 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 da. So it's just this huge personal drama type thing. So I could have victimized myself, which I did initially, or I could rise above that, not make him a villain, not make myself a victim, not try to save him or save myself, but rise above that and realize, okay, what's going on, and how can I have a conscious conversation with my father at this point in time to figure out what's really going on for him, let him know what I'm feeling and experiencing, and then how could we work together to have a cohesive, harmonious relationship. And so my entire life, I made great grades. I've done all of these things. I graduated top of my class, the record offers, built the businesses, etc. And I never heard, hey, I'm proud of you. Hey, son, I'm never proud of you, right? But I've always wanted to hear that if I was honest with myself. Yeah. And so when I had this conversation and realized he wasn't going to come to our wedding, that was kind of another huge pivoting point, at dinner one day, and he was making excuses of why he couldn't be there. And so I just asked him blatantly, said, man, I'm feeling a lot of tension and feeling a lot of anger. What's going on with you? And after we started dialoguing about it, he said, well, I just don't feel appreciated from you and your brother and sister. I'm like, okay, cool. I don't know how you don't feel appreciated because we hang out, we do these things, but if that's the way you feel, I can respect that. So what can I do to help you feel appreciated? And I'll never forget, because he looked down at the floor that one day and he goes, that's a great question. I don't know. And I was like, okay. And so at that moment, that was the moment that I realized, okay, so number one, he doesn't feel, this is not the real thing that's going on for him. But regardless, if I'm living my life every single day for his approval, and that's what's determining my happiness, I'm never going to be happy. So how do I grow through that to feel like, how do I live every single day for my own approval, my own trust and respect, right? Rather than his. So the next question I asked him was, okay, well, if you don't know what I can do to help you feel appreciated, what is one thing I could do to help you feel appreciated? And I had bought the house that I had at that time. I bought it from him, and I was paying him 7% interest on it. No, I could have gone to the bank or something, but I got to pay somebody interest, and I was like, I'm going to give it to my dad. So he's like, I want you to find somebody else to refinance the house. Okay, so I went and got that all taken care of. And again, no matter what happened, he never was happy. Never was happy, wow. Never felt appreciated. So that then led me to this journey of like, okay, well, how do I find trust and respect for myself? Right. And I was sitting at this event in Sedona, Arizona, with a guy named Jeremy Eugene Wilson, who was leading the event. And he said something at that event, as all of this was going on, that completely shifted the trajectory of my life. And he said, until you have trust and respect for yourself, no one on the planet will have trust and respect for you. And I was like, until I have trust and respect for myself, nobody else. And I was like, explain that. I don't quite get that. He goes, how in the hell do you expect somebody to give you, i.e. trust and respect, if you're not willing to give it to yourself? Because it's a universal law that the universe, God, can only give you that which you're giving to yourself. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
So that just resonated.
Instantly. Yeah. So here I was going through life saying, hey, look at how awesome I am because I built this thing. So if I built this thingy, then tell me how awesome I am so I know internally how awesome I am, because I don't know that I am.
Right. Right. Because you weren't sitting there taking it in and right. Connecting those dots that I am awesome because I've done this and that.
Exactly.
You're like, I've done all this, but I need that person.
Yep.
Your dad.
External validation.
Else. Right.
Okay. So I had to start living from internal validation. So that was the day where I was like, okay, I completely have to change everything. So then I just rebirthed myself from that place and started taking ownership every single day of my life. So everything I was doing from a core, which we can get into is the foundation of this, I had trust and respect for myself.
Yeah.
I honored my own word. And when I could do that, then when I went into the game of business, executing on the strategies, I started attracting higher quality people. Because again, why? Confident certain people want to deal with confident certain people.
Absolutely.
Right? The more successful I am, the more successful my clients are going to be, because that's like attracts like, right? So it's not just the law of attraction, because the law of attraction of itself is complete and utter bullshit. And I can say that because I lived it. I was meditating. I had vision boards. I would visualize my future and all of this at the time and do work. And I'm like, well, why am I still attracting these types of clients?
Right.
Why am I still capped at making, $4,000 or $5,000, $6,000 a month? Why can I not get to that nebulous 10? Why can I not get to that nebulous 15 or 20? And it was because at my core, I was weak. I wasn't congruent. I didn't feel powerful. I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel certain. But once I was able to shift the core, everything shifted.
And how did that, what came into that now? Then what was life like after that, once that shift?
So then,
because it also isn't, I woke up the next day, and
of course not.
It's still a journey and it's still a path.
Yep. So it took me about 6 months to make that transition of doing work. And we'll get into what that work is, but taking ownership every single day took about 6 months, where I finally shifted that feeling within me. And once that feeling shifted, again, I'd have more referrals that would start coming in. So I'd take my business from $6,000 to $10,000 in recurring revenue every single month. So that was one thing that shifted massively. The other thing that shifted massively was the types of clients that I was working with. All the clients that I was working with were used to making $150,000 to $220,000 a year. And there's amazing people that I just love hanging out with.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun working with them. It's a lot of fun going to like UFC fights with them and MMA fights and soccer games. Like this, it's a lot of fun hanging out with my clients. They're like some of my best friends. That was a big shift. The other big shift was in my relationship. I felt like I had more trust and respect for my wife, which was a huge, huge thing.
Wow.
Because at the end of the day, as a dude, I don't give a shit about love, if I'm 100% honest. I care about admiration, and I want to be admired from my wife. Now, she wants more love, connection. She's a woman. That's at her core. It's what women want, is intimacy, love, connection. Men, we want admiration. Two totally big different drivers of everything that we do, right? I'm not coming home saying, I need loving from my wife. I need to come home and have admiration. So I got that. That was a big deal. Then the other thing was just had way more fun. Just had a lot more fun in life.
That's fantastic. And walk us through, because I know you've helped so many other people kind of work through these items, and I really appreciate you sharing.
Of course.
That raw, bit of your history with your dad, because it's such a. I've watched it in so many people's lives, my own life, parents especially, but all kinds of relationships that can just, it colors your entire being from such a deep place. But there's also people who maybe don't have it. They've got a great relationship with their family. They don't see anything that's hit them that way. They don't have this dark history somewhere or stress. And yet there's still something.
Yep.
They're still not operating from, just like you're talking about, from that essential core, that strength and that confidence.
Yep.
How do you help somebody figure out what that can be and work through those kind of things? Is that too general?
No, it's not. No. So I have this unique superpower, which is my gut intuition, right? I'm not like some psychic reader, weird, voodoo type person at all. But I've learned how to listen to that voice inside me. And I've learned that I literally feel what people are feeling. You're the same way. You're able to feel what's going on around you. And I'm able to, if I choose to harness that, and for a lot of years I suppressed it because I thought, well, if I share this truth with them, what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling, how are they going to know that? Are they going to think I'm weird? Because there's multiple instances, like in events, when I'll be sitting behind somebody and they're asking a question like, well, how do I do this thing about Facebook? And the teacher there, the facilitator, they're answering questions and trying to get to the person's answer. And the person's like, no. And he did it. And then they're like, no. And he's still not getting it. And he's getting frustrated because he's not getting what he wants. And then the facilitator is not happy because they're not helping this person. And I can feel the tension. And so I can just speak up and be like, hey, I think what he's trying to say is blah.
Right, the person in front of you.
Yeah.
Like the person that what they're really trying to
exactly.
ask.
And he goes, yes, exactly. And they're like, oh, boom. Instantaneous breakthrough, clarity, right?
Yeah. It's that mediator.
Yes.
An interpreter.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even in that moment, if you'll notice my language, I said, I think what he's trying to say, which is intellectual, which is still a repression and a suppression of my gift, because I don't think that. I feel it.
Well,
it's a feeling for me.
But then I think even another layer is
Yes.
And then that takes you another step, though, I think, to, like you're
True.
saying, to say it
True.
out loud. Say, I know this is what's going on.
And so now I started changing my language on saying, hey, I feel what you're trying to say is, and I poof. And I'm not attached to, well, what if it's wrong? What if they think I'm weird?
Sure.
What if they think I'm strange? Nobody has ever done that to me. They're most likely holy shit, yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say,
right?
So to answer your question directly, the way that it happens is, I can either do this via Zoom, where we have like virtual meetings, and I can sit there and talk to people and ask very powerful, direct questions, and we're able to very quickly get to what is the underlying reason you're not doing whatever is required to get you what you want.
Yep.
Okay. Or we'll have people fly into Dallas for an intensive, and I'll take them on a hike, or I'll take them to the park, and I'll plan a whole experiential day to be able to put them into situations where I can extract what is holding them back and be able to hold it up to them so they can clearly see it. And that's when they're like, that makes perfect sense. That's something I've felt my entire life, but I've never had it externalized or verbalized or put into a form of information where I can be like, I can put my finger on that and say, yes, this is the thing that's holding me back. And then we go into just completely annihilating it and breaking through that.
And so, what is that next step in the process? Not from an exact, we did this with this person, but from an overall approach. Is it next to, after you've shown a big light on it?
Yep.
Is it, use words, attack and deconstruct it? Is that because it's usually this limiting belief or something unhealthy, and it's basically showing like how this no longer holds power?
Yeah. So the next step really is you have to claim it, right? So you have to, once you can identify it and say, okay, well, this is the disempowering belief, this is the disempowering thought, this is the disempowering experience, whatever it is. Man, that dude totally wanted to go around in that little car. Holy smokes. So just so you know, like there was this little Honda Civic and there's a Ford F-150 in front of us. He totally hopped the curve, ground out his axles while he's driving to go around here to then sit at the light that's in front of us, which is crazy. And he just hooked a homeless guy up with some money, which is nice of him, I think.
There's still an exchange going on. I need
this. That was totally random.
We need this 360 degree. This is why we drive, folks, is this kind of fun and energy. And we have a very energetic homeless guy too.
Yeah, we do. All right. That's crazy. I wish I had like a camera I could just go like whoop and see you can see this. That's hilarious.
Okay, more proof. We need to do these in 360 videos so people could spin that around.
Okay, sorry. So back here on track. So the next step is once we can identify the limiting belief, the next piece is understanding the law of being, right? Which is I am that I am, which is totally confusing. So if we look in the Bible, Moses talking to the burning bush and he's like, yo, who are you? And he says, I am that I am, right? And so there's a great book on this whole concept called Your Faith is Your Fortune by Neville Goddard. I highly, highly recommend that you pick this up because it's really a foundational cornerstone of a lot of stuff that I teach and a lot of stuff that I embody on a daily basis because the concepts of that book has radically changed my life and everybody that we work with. So the law of being, I am that I am, which is I am that which I am being, okay? Now, in order to do this, you have to tell the truth. You can't put some type of facade on it. You have to look at what is completely objectively, and this is where it gets hard. Because a lot of times if we're doing it by ourselves, we want to completely ignore it. We don't want to face it. We can make up total logical reasons, right? That sound pretty good to justify what is, rather than just saying that is. And it's neither good nor bad. It is real. Now, is it empowering me or is it disempowering me? And if it's empowering you, then continue doing it. If it's disempowering you, then we have a choice to say, I don't want to do that anymore. So if we look at our core, and if we just use myself as an example, if I was honest, which I got really honest about myself, which was everything that I do and build, it's for external validation. So if I'm looking for other people's approval in order to be happy, then I'm never going to have that. And I'm going to forever, until the day I die, be unhappy. Am I okay with that? I wasn't okay with that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And you've done it enough to see that it wasn't empowering.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So once I understood, cool, well, I am that I am. So if I want to be confident and powerful, how could I show up confident and powerful? And that's where we come into the next framework, which is ownership. So ownership is like oxygen, water, nutrition, energy, restoration. So every single day, if you set targets for making sure you get enough oxygen, that's where the meditation comes in. It's also where we're starting to discipline our mind through meditation. If we look at, am I drinking enough water on every single day, which sounds crazy, but I'll make this make sense to everybody here in a second, which is if I'm dehydrated, then at a frequency cellular level, I'm inadequate. I'm weak. My body at a core level is weak if I'm dehydrated. It's not operating at its utmost electricity, its utmost nutrition, its utmost metabolism because I'm dehydrated. I'm weak, right? Yep. So make sure I get enough water every day. If I'm eating terrible foods, nutrition, and again, at my core, I'm going to be weak because I'm not feeding myself good food. Right. Energy. If I'm feeling down and low energy, then I'm only going to hang out and attract people who are low energy. So how do I get high energy? By working out, whatever that is for people. It could be walking, it could be lifting weights, it could be combat sports.
Yeah, it's amazing how little can change your life.
Yeah.
It's just move yourself.
Exactly. Okay, so that's a good piece to get you the energy. And then the R is sleep. You got to sleep for whatever works for you. There's not like a right number. I was talking with a guy the other day from Canvassing DFW. That was his podcast, Jose. He only sleeps like 2 or 3 hours a night. That would kill me. But for him, it's all he can physically do as a human being. Yeah, so if I was to tell him, well, science says you must get 8 or 9 hours or otherwise, so take this pill so you can have 8. Your body's crazy, Jose. Like you've done it for 40 years that you're 3 hours of sleep and it works for you. So use all that extra time that most people don't have to go get what you want. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's a great gift, right? So those are the ownership pieces. Now to make this make total sense, if we're taking ownership and we set targets of meditating, so we have oxygen and we're able to clear and be still. If we're able to eat good food and have good water and work out on a daily basis, make sure that we're getting enough sleep. Well then, if we set targets and we honor our word on that, we immediately are going to start having trust and respect. We're going to feel better. We're going to feel confident. We're going to feel certain. So therefore, when we go in and do work, we're creating that work from a place that's very high frequency, very confident, very certain. And as a result, when people read the content that you're creating, whether it's a podcast like this, they're going to feel you. Yep. Just as if you've ever received a birthday card from, let's say, a grandmother at some point in your life. I'd be willing to bet everything that I own that when you open that card and read it, if she wrote it, that you're going to hear her voice. And not only are you going to hear her voice, you are going to feel the emotional state she was in which she created that original card in, right? Which is crazy if you think about it, right? Because it's just a card. But somehow she had an intention when she was writing this card to you, and she was in an emotional state. She was visualizing who you were. And so therefore, that intention flew through her, into the pen, into the ink, into the card. So now when you open that card, you have literally an emotional experience. And I'd have you consider that in the game of marketing today, the same rule, the same principle applies to every podcast, every blog post, every networking event, if it's just completely offline, speaking event, etc. The people having that experience, whether it's a speaking event, whether it's a networking event, whether it's a blog, a podcast, a photo shoot, it doesn't matter to me. They're having an emotional experience and they're going to resonate with you at the level in which you're putting out. So therefore, if you're putting out confidence and certainty, confidence in certain people are going to resonate with it. So if you're putting out, if you are creating content from, I hope people are going to think this is good. I hope that I can prove people how awesome I am by the content that I'm creating. I hope they like it because they don't. I'm not going to be able to pay rent. That's scarcity. Like, no bullshit, right? It's scarcity. So as a result, you're going to resonate with people who are in scarcity, right? So it's like this other principle. We talked about the law of being, the next principle, law of vibration. So anybody who's in music, if they understand, like, it's a physical law of the universe, just like gravity, that a higher note or a low note can only resonate with that one higher. A high note is never going to come down and change pitch to resonate with a low note, right? Interesting. So if you have like a tuning fork and you have then you may have a lower note and it's going to go, it's going to resonate, right?
It comes up to it.
Yeah, it's going to come up to it. It's never going to go, oh, and come down. It's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So knowing this principle, it's the same thing in the game of marketing and sales. If I'm operating high frequency, then I'm going to work with high frequency people. That's who's going to resonate. If I'm creating from low frequency, then I'm only going to resonate with low frequency people. And again, none of this is right or wrong, okay? That's what I want to drive home. It's not right or wrong. It's just principles of the universe, of Earth, of being a human being that I have learned and I have experimented with now for over 2 years. And I've had clients go through without a shadow of a doubt. I can say it works. Like these principles work, and it's ridiculously simple.
Yeah, and I think you're still in that mode too of you still have this awe of it.
Yeah.
Of its simplicity too, because I feel that from you a lot too, because time and again, whether it's your story, it's a client's story, it's my story.
Yep.
There's at the end of it all it was that simple. I've experienced how changing those 4 or 5 things in a daily basis when nothing else changes.
Yes.
The phone rings.
Yep.
You get the email. You get the call. It just because you're on point, you're resonating in life better.
And I got to say this because I don't want people to misinterpret this. This does not mean that you can sit there and just take ownership and then not do the strategies or execute on a business tactic and then expect it to work.
Right.
Okay, and so that's where you're like, well, I'm living these principles. Why is it not working? Well, are you working? Like you have to do both.
Yeah, it doesn't just work.
Right.
You have to work.
Exactly.
And I think too that this is a big point where two main things out there. One is a lot of people get caught up in all of this and then they stop.
Yep.
Number one.
Yes.
And the second is people tune out and everything else that we've just talked about before we get to this part, which is this is just the foundation.
Yeah.
And then everything else, what you're learning, and then there's a lot of right ways after that.
Yep.
But nothing works without this first. And now go to work.
Yep.
Now go apply your tactics.
Yep. And that's why I call it like the missing element of modern day marketing. Because so many business owners, and maybe you that are watching this or listening to this, have the same experience. Maybe you're like, well, if I just learned this new tactic, if I just learned this new tool, if I had this technology, if I just had this business capital, if I just had the whatever that tactic, that strategy is, then life would change. And I thought the same thing for many, many years. And I felt like I was on this never-ending wheel of just constantly running and going. And I'm like, man, why does business feel so darn hard? Why does it feel like every single day I get out of bed, I'm excited about what I'm creating, but I feel like I have 2 40-pound sacks of sand on each shoulder, and business is hard. And over a while, I'm just like, I don't want to do this anymore. If business is like this, this is not fun to me. Yeah. And I realized, I'm missing the game of personal mastery. And once I understood that, and I went to work on executing on the stuff that we were talking about, ownership, the law of being, the law of vibration, and still went and executed on the game of business, life became ridiculously simple, and the results happened automatically.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. So what are some of we kind of touched on that already. I mean, it's just sort of, I think there's certain people like yourself who bridge these worlds of business and personal mastery, and they should be like this, right?
Yes.
So many people, that's off, that's over there. What are some of those myths that you've encountered from people, like that feedback that's not for me, that has nothing to do with what I'm going through? So
one of the games is, or myths, is like, well, woo-woo is for, weird woo-woo people, right?
Yeah.
If I'm business, I'm very buttoned up,
Numbers, data.
Yeah, I mean, that's the game of business. Emotions, I don't need anything about emotions.
Right.
So that's the complete myth. And if that's working for you, then by all means, turn off this video and go to the next video that's going to serve you. Not going to hurt my feelings. Not going to hurt Jay Croft's feelings here. But for those of you who are looking for like, man, I do feel like I work really hard and I'm spinning my wheels. Why? What's going on? Or you feel like you're waking up disempowered every day. What's going on? Then the truth is to understand your emotions. Emotions, none of them are good or bad. None of them are right or wrong. The emotion simply is. And as a result, the emotional piece is a messenger. Emotions are messengers if you choose to listen. Okay? So if you're angry, anger isn't bad or good. It just is. You're angry. So own that you're angry and understand, well, why am I angry right now? Okay? Like, what's causing me to feel anger? Usually the root of anger is we feel like we lost something. Feel like something's been taken from us. So usually if I'm mad at Sarah, my wife, for some reason I have anger, it's because I feel like she's taken my admiration. She's taken respect. And I create a story about that. Is it true? Is it not true? Well, it's what I'm experiencing at the moment. So then I get to figure out what I do with the feedback that life is presenting to me. Do I express anger? Do I not express anger? Etc. But the key thing is understand anger's a messenger. If I'm frustrated, why am I frustrated? Right? Taking that time to pause to figure out, well, why am I frustrated? I feel like things are just not working. Am I overwhelmed? If so, why? If I'm feeling guilty, why am I experiencing shame? Why do I feel like something is bad to express? Right? If I'm feeling sad, why, right? So that's the first piece. Now the second piece of this, because we're talking about myths and truths, the next myth is, I don't have time for this. I mean, I'm a business guy. I'm a high producer. I need to go, crush, right? And again, if things aren't working for you right now, then I'd have you consider pause. And the reason being is on the other side of this, and I'll tell a story here to make this make sense, is there's massive power in the pause. Call it the power of the pause. So for those of you who are like, well, I don't have time to listen to my emotions. I'm a man. I'm not supposed to. That's a woman thing to do. Or women, I can't do that because then I'm not going to be accepted into the game of business, because the game of the business is I need to act like a dude, right? I can't show up powerfully as a powerful woman. Then I'm going to be judged and I'm not going to be accepted, right? All of these stories, right? Stories. Doesn't matter if they are true, not true. They're a story. And if it's helping you get what you want, great. If it's not, then it's time to tell a different story, right? So the power of the pause. This is where we get to pause. And here's why. I was in Sedona, Arizona, and I was in the gym working with one of my mentors. And we were doing a push and then pause bench press. So you're on the rack or on the bench, and you're like, he says push, you're lifting the weight, and then you set it back down on the rack, and then he says pause, you let go of the barbell. Is it called a barbell?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. It's a barbell. And so we were doing like 5 sets of 10. I don't remember my weight, but it was a lot more than I do. And I'm not a big bench press strong guy. I think for me, like probably 130 or 145 is a lot for me. So I was probably doing 140, 145, which is more than I'm typically doing. So first set of 10, I was like, boom, 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 no problem. Second set is a little bit more. Got to the third set, and by like rep number 5, I was like, and he's like, all right, push. And I'm like, and I couldn't get it up. It was just like wiggly, and my arms were burnt. And he goes, okay, let go, pause. And he goes, pause. I'm like, I'm paused. I'm not touching the bar. He goes, no, pause. I was like, I'm not touching the bar. He goes, fucking pause. I'm like, dude, I'm not touching the bar right now. What do you want me to do? Right? Because he met me with like high intense energy. I'm going to meet him with high intense energy. And I'm like, I'm not touching the bar. What else do you want me to do? He goes, pause. I said, I'm not touching the bar. He goes, no. I'd have you consider you're not paused. I'm watching you. And when you say you're paused, I can see every muscle in your arms and your chest tensing up, because you're already thinking about how are you going to lift the weight? Wow. And I was like, you're right. And he goes, no, let me ask you another question. How are you showing up in life? Because if you're showing up this way, just lifting weights, I know this pattern is showing up in your life. Where's that showing up? And for that moment, I was like, holy smokes. I never, ever pause. Ever. Because I'm always thinking about that next thing, thing that I need to do. He goes, here, I want you to try this one thing. When I tell you to pause, I want you to lay down, don't touch the barbell. Barbell, is what it's called? Barbell?
Yeah.
Okay, barbell. And pause. Like, just close your eyes, breathe, be in the moment. Don't think about lifting the weight. Just pause. Just purely pause. So I was like, all right. So he said pause. I thought about it. He said push. And I wasn't ready to push yet. I wasn't ready to lift the weight. So I stayed just thinking, breathing, deep breaths. And when I felt ready and he said push, boom, push. And he said pause, I'd breathe, be in the moment, just focus on my breath. He said push, boom. And I finished like 3 more sets.
Wow.
And he goes, okay, what'd you just learn? I said, well, I just learned that if I didn't learn how to pause, there's no way I could have finished these other additional sets. Like, I literally didn't have the strength to pull it off. I couldn't. And by pausing, truly pausing, I had more power and I produced more results. And he goes, now I want you to take this lesson of the power pause, and when you go home, implement that in your life. So this comes back into, this is why I meditate every day. Like this morning, I sat for 20 minutes meditating. People are like, well, I don't have time. It's 20 minutes of wasted time. Or if I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling angry for whatever reason, because I have this tendency to feel either joy, happiness, or pure rage. It's kind of what it is for me. There's not really a lot of in between. It's the honest truth. Then I have to go allow myself to express that rage somehow. Usually go to the gym, hit the bag, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I can get it out of me, and then I'm like, okay, why am I so angry? Now, I could try to continue doing work from that place of frustration, guilt, shame, rage, whatever it is.
Right, just get it done.
Just get it done, force the result, and if so, that's why business feels hard. Yeah. So if I'll take the time to pause and figure, okay, what's going on? Do a shift mood to be able to shift out of that frequency, because another principle here, we can't solve that problem in the same state it was created in, right? So I can force, but until I get to a place where I'm like, okay, I feel good now. I've released that. I've shifted out of that. Boom, I can figure that out. So what I learned is, for me, I may sit in force frequency without pausing, and maybe it takes me 3 hours to figure out the answer. When if I would just pause, and maybe it takes me 30 minutes to shift my state, well, then I can get that result
it's amazing.
2.5 hours faster.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
And so, yeah, there's your answer to the people with that myth that you don't have time. You're actually creating time.
Massively.
That's huge. And I can attest to that as well, like numerous times with AJ's help and guidance. And I've been, believed in the power of meditation and, taking that time and stuff, but I would maybe sort of kind of get to it,
of course,
a couple of mornings a week. And when I started implementing that on, especially the afternoon pause, that was the biggest one for me, that I noticed a tangible difference to where I just hit that reset, especially during that. It's the hardest one to do too, because you're in the middle of everything.
Absolutely.
And to just make that conscious, like, okay, it's time. And I would usually do it not by the clock, but by that exact feeling.
Yep.
Like, I'm just hitting the wall.
Yep.
Let me stop. And then that clarity. And for folks watching, for folks listening, if you haven't done any kind of meditating, or if you have and like, it's not for me, it's such a, that word comes with so much baggage.
So much truth. Yep.
And for me, it really is just pausing.
Yeah.
It's stopping. It's breathing. It's not an outcome. It's just that process of 10, 15 minutes. And it's just an amazing thing that your mind just, try to force your mind to not think or any of that. There's all different ways to do it, but I can attest to the power of that for sure.
Well, even in the game of meditation, like I did a 10-day meditation retreat back in February this year, where you couldn't talk, couldn't look at people, couldn't write, couldn't do anything for 10 days, except meditate 10, 12 hours a day. It was intense. One of the most intense things I've ever done in my life, both physically and emotionally. It was intense.
I bet.
But the biggest lesson is becoming equanimous means you're not attached to an outcome. So like you just said, well, meditation, you sit, and whatever happens, happens. If your mind runs, it runs. If you learn how to finally bring it back, you bring it back, and you just let it be.
Yeah.
It is. Nope. Right? But so many people think, oh, well, I must be attached because I must not have any thoughts. Good luck. Good luck with that. Exactly.
This isn't working.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
So you learn just to be here now, and just bring yourself back. Pay attention to the breath. And as you continue to do more and more and more, you start disciplining your mind, and it's going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And you may find when you drift, it's faster to get back, and sometimes you're just going to be here. But the thing is you learn how to become a quantumist, where you're not attached to it. But translating this over to the game of life and business, it's the same thing, right? Where we have this target in business that we should work to get to hit, right? Because that's what we want.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, we should not attach our personal value to hitting that target. We shouldn't attach our personal worth to hitting that target. Because so many times it's an entrepreneur like, well, I hit this thing, now I'm awesome. People love me. And then the next moment, maybe we lose that, we don't close that next sale, etc. Like, oh, I'm so terrible, I'm a worthless human being, right? And our emotions and our value is up and down and up and down, up and down, up and down. Rather than using the parallels that you learn in meditation into the game of business, which is become unattached to the outcome. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to wake up every day being like, fuck it, I don't care what happens today, right? I'm a spiritual gangsta. Like, no.
Right.
Like, you still need to be focused on what you want, but you just learn how to enjoy the process. So just like a solid meditation, you enjoy just paying attention to your breath. If we're doing like an Anapana meditation, and if you find your mind wandering, then you just like, no big deal. You don't get mad at yourself. You just pay attention, like, breathe, start over again, right? If it goes again, come back. If you're starting to get like really into a deep state where you can feel every cell in your body move, and you're like, whoa, I have a body and I have a mind, and they're two completely separate different things. And I can only tell this because that's what I experienced during my meditation retreat after 80 hours of meditating.
Wow.
Finally get to that place. So like, whether you think I'm crazy or not, it doesn't matter to me. Something I experienced, just like when the apostles Jesus died and he come resurrected, if we believe in the story of the Bible, and the apostles are like, yo, I don't know what happened. All I can tell you is what I saw with my eyes and heard with my ears, right? Right? It's kind of the same thing about meditation for me. I don't care if you believe me, but it's what I experienced, right? But it's the same thing, right? I have to learn a meditation not to become like, ooh, I'm in the feel-good phase now. Let me, because the moment I'm attached to it and it leaves, I'm like, oh, this was a terrible session, right? So you lose happiness in the process. You lose power, personal power in the process. So the game of business is no different. We take that power, we'll understand the power of the pause, but we learn as we're working, just enjoy the process of it. Yeah. Enjoy the journey.
And it is hard to put those two things together.
Yes.
It really is. I know it is for me. I think it is for a lot of people. To have goals, because you're all about having goals,
absolutely,
set milestones and everything. This isn't just like you said. It's not just like, let's see what happens with the day. You certainly don't want to approach business that way. And I would say it's not a good way to approach life that way necessarily. But at the same time, and at the exact same time, to go through all of that with that openness, that enjoy, that little bit of standing outside yourself, saying, "Let's see where this goes. This is interesting."
Of course.
I don't know the formula to guide someone along through that. How do you instruct someone along that path?
It comes back to this idea of I am that I am. So we have to figure out, who are you being at this moment, right? So if we want something different than we've never had, then we have to be somebody completely different than we've ever been before. Yeah. Different thoughts, different feelings, completely different.
Yeah.
Like who I am today is completely different who I was a year ago, even 2 years ago, drastically different. That's first piece. Second piece is learning to be completely honest about what is truly 100% going on, and not creating any reasons, like not any justifications. Where it's like, okay, this is what's going on, and we're not attached to it. It is, right? Byron Katie has a wonderful book on this, which is called Loving What Is, which is kind of the foundation of what we're talking about here. It's not matter if it's true or not. It just is. It is, and we must learn to really truly love what is. And then from that, we can then shift into, well, is it disempowering or is it empowering? Okay. And then when we become unattached, the only way that I know how to help people do this is through meditation, right? So meditation for me is all about disciplining one's mind. It's not something that happens overnight. It's something that you take on, just like lifting weights. You don't get cut and ripped and have an amazing, confident body overnight. Right. You can do it over a course of 90 days if you're willing to put in a lot of work over those 90 days. And for some people, I would say that's not even sustainable, like P90X for an entire life, right? So maybe you need to do something more simple, which is maybe it's getting in and boxing twice a week and then doing, cardio in between the other 3 days, just 30 minutes a day or something.
Because anything you're going to do long term is going to be way better.
Exactly, right? So you make that lifestyle adjustment. So meditation for me is that thing for a lot of people. So they need to start out with maybe just a minute. Maybe it's 2 minutes, maybe it's 3 minutes, and they over time can get to a place where they're meditating for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, so they can learn to discipline their mind. And to me, that's the starting place, because if we can't discipline our mind, it's going to totally discipline us, right?
Oh yeah.
And I know I have that little general in the back seat of my head all the time, wanting to yell at me and be like, "You're not good enough. You're not. Who are you to talk about this? Who are you not?" And then I get to pay attention to it because I have control over my mind, because I've done enough meditation and I've disciplined it enough where I can grab the thought and I don't have to judge it. I can just say, okay, I don't think I'm good enough right now. Is it true or is it not true? 100% untrue. Okay, well, why? Because I've done this, and this. Well, what am I willing to do differently? I'm willing to do this now. Boom. And then if I do it
in a few seconds, you work through that instead of your day is done.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. So you have to shift, otherwise you're going to go off on a tangent, right? Bring it right back to where you have ownership of what you got going on. That's the only framework I know of helping people go through it. And it's called, Byron Katie calls it the work. And that's essentially what it is you become really honest about what's going on in your mind, these stories that we're running. Yeah. And then we can grab a hold of it and look at it objectively and ask yourself, well, is this 100% true? And the answer is always going to be no. You don't know with 100% certainty that this is absolutely true. You're like, okay, well, why is it not absolutely true? Well, because of boom, boom, boom. So we can create some reasons to justify this new belief system of looking at it differently. Say, okay, well, what am I committed to moving forward? Boom, boom, boom. Or what is the next empowering action that I could take that would be counter to this? Boom, go do it. And if you do it, the faster that you execute on that, you're going to have a new experience. And the only thing that you can have that's going to convert your mindset is not more information. It's going to be a new experience. Because when you have a new experience, it's going to completely rattle your belief system. Just like I told you, when we're talking about meditation and understanding the body and the mind, regardless what anybody wants to tell me, I'm like, I experienced this. You can't take that away from me.
Oh yeah, it's massive. So, what's something I want to kind of wrap this. I love all of this path, and I really appreciate you sharing this with my viewers, with my listeners. What's step one to take everything that they've gotten from you today to start taking action on some of this and to apply it in their own life if they haven't gone down this road at all before?
I would say the first step is completing probably what I call the big five, really. So we take inventory across the big five, and it's what you have to move all going forward, or it's going to impact your business, which is your faith, your family, your fitness, your finances, and your fun. Faith, family, fitness, finance, fun. And move all of these things forward, right? But before we can do that, we have to get brutally honest of where are you at currently in the game of faith? What's that look like to you, right? What are you experiencing that you don't like and that you wish that you did have, right? Do the same thing when it comes to your family, your marriage, etc. Like, what are you truly experiencing there? Is it really good? Are you happy with it? You're not happy with it? Why are you not happy with it? And the same thing with fitness, your finances, and are you having fun along the way? Are you doing something completely outside of the game of business? Because I found myself purely business.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I wouldn't go to a UFC fight. I wouldn't go to a Metallica concert, But now that I've bolted on those things, I have more confidence and certainty because I'm having more fun in the game of business. And I usually invite, like, my clients and colleagues or whatever to come hang out, and we just really solidify relationships with these other things,
it's
right?
amazing how that works.
Yeah. So that's where the starting point is, taking inventory across these five. Well, once we know where we're at, then the next phase of that is, well, what would be a win for you over the next 30 days in the game of faith? What would expand your capacity? Is it learning how to meditate for the very first time and using something like Headspace, which is an app on your phone that you could use that would teach you the basics of meditation? I think it's like $1.99 or something like that. Or I think it has a free trial version, right? So you can learn the basics that way. Is it going back to church? Is it not going to church? Is it reading something every day? Like whatever it is for you. There's no right or wrong. It's just what's going to expand your connection to that thing that is greater than you. Whatever you call that, God or Jesus or Buddha or Allah, it doesn't matter to me. Whatever that thing is that's greater than you. And then how do we set targets for your family, your fitness, your finance, and fun? And then break it down into, okay, well, this is what, if I hit over the next 30 days, it would totally expand me as a human being, and I would have more confidence and certainty. Break it down into, well, what does it take for you to do that? And then track that.
Awesome.
And do it for 30 days.
Yeah.
And then after the 30 days, you're honest with yourself. Did you hit it? Did you not hit it? And I have people that come to the game with me where they'll way over commit. And I'll be like, yo, you're no way you're going to pull this over in 30 days. This is way too much. And they're like, no, I got it. I'm like, I'm telling you right now, you don't. No, I got it. Okay, cool. I let them hang themselves with their own rope, right? 30 days later, they're like, you're right. It's too much. I'm like, yeah, exactly. So.
And that's okay.
Yes.
It's like, that's the whole lesson in that too. It's like, you don't have to do all of this. We'll get there.
Yep. So then we break it down. I'm like, okay, how is this pattern showing up for you usually? Well, historically, I always overcommit, and I'm really excited, but I don't ever get it done. And then I look up 90 days from now, and I'm just kind of burnt out because what's the point? I'm like, good. So let's take this 1 month goal that you want to get done, and let's get it done over 6 months. And we incrementally grow over time because it's sustainable. And then that person has more results because they're doing less things, and they're having more fun, they have more confidence and certainty, and they have a better life, and they have a better business in the process. So to me, that would be kind of the framework for where do we start?
That's perfect.
How do we execute on it?
That's awesome. That's an amazing journey into that really that everything has to start from. So I love that. How do people get in touch with you and learn more from you?
Sure. So go to ajamyx.com, ajamyx.com. There's some great free trainings there on Twitter if you want to expand your influence and your income. There's a great training on building a highly profitable brand. It's a video series that dives into the law of vibration, dives into the law of being at a really deep level. It's a great video training series. Like, it's really good. Jay Croft actually shot it. It's amazing. He helped produce all of it. It's really good. So go check that out. Just go to ajamyx.com or just hit me up on Twitter. Just it's at ajamyx. I'm always having conversations with people there.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for being on, brother.
Of course.
We're going to keep driving and see what happens. I told you that was going to be an incredible episode. Just amazing. So much value there. I've gotten so much from AJ over the years of knowing him, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to get some of that out to you folks. Make sure you connect with him. All the places he just went through. I'll have all that linked up in the show notes at thejasoncroft.com/AJ. And you can find all the links there to some of the books that he's talked about and some of the people that he's talked about. And I encourage you to reach out to him. Taking all your strengths in your entrepreneurial journey and letting him pour fuel on that fire, you'll be amazed at what you can accomplish. It's really incredible. So if you like episodes like this, if you like these interviews, please subscribe here on YouTube. And if you're listening to the podcast, make sure you hit subscribe there in iTunes. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one.
It's Saturday night. It was Saturday night and I'm feeling kinda silly. Winter coat on cause the air was chilly, but I'ma make my way out to the record spot. Gotta find some new breaks for the beats to rock. I gotta come with the flavor like some lifesavers. On now and later, Dr. Beatmaker. If I'm a player, it's like your tape deck. And if you miss the gig, then take a rain check. Stacks of wax piled high to the ceiling, need a U-Haul truck if I would think about stealing. But it's not my steed, so I commence with the digging, no kidding. Something that'll keep the beats hitting what I'm getting. So much to choose from, bro.